Companion was a film that I very much expected to watch, enjoy, and then move on from. I didn't think I was going to be doing a video on it, but here we are. The story starts off simple enough, following Iris, a character played by Sophie Thatcher, as she realises that she's not just the girlfriend of her boyfriend Josh, she's actually his robot, a companion to be specific. You know, it's creepy for sure, but it also opens up this whole can of worms about the ethics of AI, autonomy, and how far we're willing to go when we control someone. That, and it's a pretty fun movie, with some good gore and great performances. Here's the thing, Companion isn't just one of these films that looks to make the moral statement about AI its primary message. You know, that sentiment is hopefully carried by a little thing called common sense. This is a thriller featuring some cold tension between Iris and the people around her. It's constant, and early on you're treated to this "you're not welcome" vibe that I remember feeling while watching Get Out. Now obviously they are very different subject matters, but the setting is similar in a sense. Morally, a lot of these characters suck, and just when you think you know where it might be going, the film pulls that rug from right underneath your feet. So let's talk about it. Now, Companion is a thriller that thrives on the tension and unpredictability of its story. Sure, that would have been better without the twist being spoiled in the marketing 2 weeks before release, but what can you do? It establishes this eerie, unsettling tone that gets stronger as things progress. It throws you right in at that deep end, immediately engaging you in the narrative and letting the details unravel organically. On a technical level, this film is great. The direction from Drew Hancock is sharp, the cinematography from Eli Bourne knows when to be restrained and when to go all in, and the pacing keeps you hooked without ever letting it feel rushed. There are a few moments here and there that the film chooses to just sit in the tension rather than outright building it anymore. It lets you feel the unease of the situation without forcing it down your throat with shitty scares or cheap tricks. The performances are a huge part of what makes it fun too. Sophie Thatcher is great and she brings this layered performance to Iris. She's a vulnerable character, but there's this quiet resilience that makes you root for her even before she fully understands what's going on around her. Jack Quaid continues with that same comedically sinister charm that he showcased in Scream 5, bringing this underlying evil to Josh. The rest of the ensemble is great too, selling that group dynamic and making it feel believable, which makes the eventual betrayal of these characters hit so much harder. Companion stands out by blending psychological horror with sci-fi in a way that feels fresh, and a definite step up from films like Megan, which tackle a similar concept but through very different means. It's not just about AI ethics or futuristic tech as much as that does play into the plot. It's about trust, power, and manipulation, all told through a story that is deeply personal. You know, my one major drawback with this thing isn't even necessarily with the film itself, and more that certain elements of the film didn't hit nearly as hard as they could have, because for some reason, there was an awful decision put in place that the twist of the movie would be spoiled in the marketing. You know, I get that the hook is engaging and that could draw eyes to go and see it out of curiosity, but I guarantee you that word of mouth would have accomplished the same thing and retained a much better effect. Luckily, even with the secret out, the execution is still strong enough so that it never feels too predictable, it's just a little bit disappointing. A huge part of the entertaining aspect of the film is the way that it builds and sustains the tension, with this underlying sense that something isn't quite right from the opening scene. The film isn't one that focuses on scares at all, I definitely say that. Despite the clear connections to the horror genre, this one definitely falls more into thriller territory. The tension builds naturally through the pacing, framing, and the character interactions. Even something as inherently simple as a lingering glance or a stretch of silence that feels slightly too long adds this subtle feeling of dread. In fact, character dynamics are also something that plays a pretty significant role in that. The film thrives on manipulation, the question of control and who has it versus those being used by it. Iris herself is someone she believed to be human, to be normal, but as she realises, in reality she's just someone that is being passed around and used by those around her. Josh is the perfect representation of a quiet, insidious control. He's never outwardly aggressive or overtly violent towards her, but he just assumes that authority over her, and for a lot of the film, that works. Then there's Patrick, a character who is also revealed to be a companion, knowing that in the process, and complicating the morality of all of this. His arc is actually kinda upsetting because despite everything, he genuinely loves Eli, and I don't think that's something that can be left up to interpretation by a watch. Structurally, Companion constantly shifts those perspectives on power. The moment that Iris realises she's a robot is one of quiet contemplation. It doesn't suddenly turn into this action-packed revenge story. She's given room to struggle, learn, and evolve as a being. Her intelligence upgrade isn't by any means an instant fix that makes her unstoppable, but she's definitely more aware and strategic. It plays with our expectations, setting up certain horror thriller tropes only to subvert them in clever ways. Just when it seems like Iris has actually gained the upper hand in the situation, the film reminds you how fragile her control actually is. And while Companion isn't necessarily trying to be any sort of full-blown commentary on AI ethics, the themes of autonomy, control, and commodification are woven seamlessly into this story. The idea of owning and modifying a sentient being is inherently disturbing by concept alone, but the film doesn't get preachy about that. Instead, it just chooses to present the reality of this world and let the tension of the scenario speak for itself. The idea that Patrick, an aware AI, is manipulated into believing he has free will only to realise how little control he actually has adds an extra layer into that exploration of identity within the film. By the time Iris gains her independence, it doesn't come across like a triumphant moment that should be celebrated because it's made to feel like survival. She's free but can't escape the knowledge of what she is, she can only evolve with said knowledge. The blend of tight, fun storytelling, tension, and character work is what makes this into a film that is as entertaining as it is thrilling. Despite it aiming for an approach that definitely channels a lot more of a dark comedic touch, there is still something definitely unsettling about Companion. It's not just about the tension or the plot twist, it's the way that the film shifts that understanding of power and identity, keeping us just as trapped as Iris herself. You're kept engaged by unpredictability, the morally bankrupt characters, and a story that constantly shifts that perspective on control and identity. It's a film that doesn't let itself get caught up too much in the narrative about AI. At its core, this is about manipulation, survival, and what can come of someone who refuses that control. It's a super fun movie that never spoon-feeds its ideas, it lets the horror unveil itself in a natural way. It makes you sit with things rather than over-explain it, allowing you to figure it out for yourself. The slow creeping realisation of how little control Iris actually has in this situation, along with how easily people will justify using people as tools, makes this a genuinely compelling experience that I wholeheartedly enjoyed. By the end of the movie, sure, Iris has broken free, but there's something mildly unsettling about the victory. She's alive and she's independent, but she's also something entirely new. She's not just a companion, but she's not human either. And as she drives off into the horizon, the film leaves us with this final, thought-provoking question. You know, not literally, but I do need something provocative to end the video on. If everything about you, your memories, your emotions, your desires were designed by someone else, what does it really mean to be free?